And that was actually, just comes to my mind, exactly a learning presented on that very same train. And seeing at the side wall in this train station a big hand drawn graffiti, and it said, "Life is 10% how you make it, and 90% how you take it."
Action!
Welcome to the Spirit of Yoga. Today, a special edition on India. Grateful for India. And a special edition also as a tea chat. My intention is to go in a more personal space, more vulnerable, more direct from the heart, more sincere, and directly connecting you to the spirit of India. So, in this Wisdom in Motion podcasts, we are exploring the roots of yoga, and we generally go very sincerely into the authentic tradition of yoga, into these classical practices. But today I would like to take you on a journey in a more personal way and introduce you to India through my lens, through my perspective, how I was meeting and discovering the motherland of yoga, the source where it's all coming from. And everybody has their own journey with yoga, their own exploration and discovery and confrontation, own challenges in the yogic path. And frequently in our Western modern yoga society, that is not so directly linked to India. Because in the modern yoga industry, we are very much in our studio world. And many yoga practitioners are not so aware of the original sources of yoga. And many have not yet traveled to the source land of yoga. So that's in a way my mission and my purpose today, to, especially if you haven't been to India yet, emphasis is on the yet. If you haven't been, I would like to introduce you to the place where yoga is coming from. And in this way, explore with you the roots of yoga in a practical, applied, experiential context through my lens, through my life experience, how I discovered the sources of the yogic wisdom. So it will be a biographical sharing and have various facets which are specifically related to my own personal life. But I'm sure it will be inspiring for you to go on a journey and in this storytelling format, discover, almost like in a novel, in a thriller, sometimes even poetic exploration, the incredible subcontinent of India. So, India not as a country, but almost as its own continent. But we could call it a subcontinent. It's like a gigantic peninsula south of the Himalayas. And it's a truly incredible place. And it's not a coincidence that the Indian tourist ministry or some marketing people there decided to give the slogan to India as Incredible India. Whereas in other countries in Asia, we find, for example, slogans like, I think it's Amazing Thailand, Wonderful Indonesia. And that's true. And it's also true that India is completely incredible. So, Incredible India is summarizing the whole experience in just two words. Incredible is kind of a synonym of unbelievable. You cannot believe. It's just so different. It's so outer worldly. It's sometimes so far out that it is like incredible. Another term would be astonishing, just mind boggling. This perplexity of just like, wow, I've never seen that in my life. I would have not even imagined that this is an option, a possibility. So, in this biographical sharing, we will explore some of those anecdotes that happened to me in my journeys through India. And I will continue this exploration also in future episodes to come. And in a way, in a gentle way, introduce you to the gifts and the massive challenges that India has to offer. Because this is a very common experience when people travel to India, that it is kind of like a mixed bag, a mixed cup. So it's not just jasmine green tea, it's not just the sweet flavors and beauties and the spiritual inspiration. And it's not just tropical beauty of frangipani flowers, which, same as here in wonderful Indonesia, in Bali, yes, there is also this beauty in India, especially in tropical places like Kerala, where I also traveled, the source place of Ayurveda. So, yes, the tropical beauty is there, and other mystical beauty and the beautiful people, the inspiration, the fragrances of wonderful incense and the flowers. Wonderful flower markets. I remember going in the South Indian yoga capital, Mysore, across the flower market. And it's like gigantic piles of different types of flowers, not just frangipani, but also marigold and other tropical Indian flowers, which we've never seen before. Wonderful smells, super affordable. Let's buy a kilogram, they say a kg. Kg? 1 kg? 2 kg, sir? 2 kg, 2 kilogram of jasmine flowers. Just the buds. Like, and you get a big bag. The fragrances, the flavors, the beauty. Incredible. So we'll explore these beautiful aspects. But everybody who goes to India will also experience the other side of the coin. And I mean, it's general in life. No? There's sun and rain, there's day and night, summer and winter. There's the beautiful, there's the ugly. Okay, we're kind of used to that. But India tends to amplify just about anything there is. And it amplifies the beauty, but it also amplifies the messiness, the awful, challenging smells. It could be like from the perfect jasmine flowers to some big pile of poo on the sidewalk. This is like a regular back and forth between such extremes. And we'll also come with the anecdotes about that. Because India, in many corners, is not only dirty, but it's filthy dirty. So the contrasts between the beauty and the challenge are extreme in India. And this is why when people come from the West to travel to India, especially on the first 1 to 3 times, are confronted with this hate love. And we can say that some people have more the emphasis in one side, others more in the other, and for others it's a mixed bag between this hate love. So some people, they just hate it because it's just so difficult, so challenging, so filthy dirty that they just want to run away and never come back. So it's kind of hating India. Maybe a few months, years later, they might still come with some nostalgia, kind of like but it was pretty nice after all. Maybe I go back one day, but no, 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 no. Kind of more the hating India. And other people seem to love it a lot, and they're just like fully enthusiastic and come back again and again and so on. But more or less for everybody, it is actually a mixed bag, but on this amplified, intensified, extreme Indian level. So it's not like only I like this and I don't like that about India. That's why it's called the hate love. It's strong. I love it so much, but I also hate it so much. And that was, of course, also my experience. And I will share in this and following episodes more about these challenging, intense, and overwhelmingly strong experiences. So, that as an introduction, in a more general, broad sense. And now it is time to get more hands on, biographical with some tales, some discursive story unfoldings as they will come intuitively in this sharing, unscripted, and in this way, genuine, flowing straight from the heart. So, some of my first encounters with India were while I was living and studying in my 20s in Berlin. I moved there from the German countryside and was very much exposed to the alternative cultures at age 20, 21, and then basics of an Indian restaurant, which I wasn't really used to from the rural area of Germany, but affordable for student context, affordable and tasty, big plates served in Indian restaurants. So first experiences with the chai, this famous Indian tea with milk, flavory masala chai. So they do also drink green tea like this one here, yes. But in India, they drink more the chai, which is usually a black tea. Um, it can come with various spices and flavors, like the masala, they call it. Masala is like a spice mixture, another word for curry. And everybody has their own masala chai with some milk in it. So I got exposed in Berlin to some tasty, flavory chai teas. And in the alternative culture, there was a lot of Indian decoration and Shiva statues like this in some alternative places. And so there was always a bit of a flavor of India around. And the little India, as it is present in many Western cities, where it's Indian expats or Indian heritage people gathering in some areas and quarters, and the subculture unfolding in Western cities around the Indian heritage. So also some import-export shops where one can find then some of the special ingredients, can buy such a chai masala tea to bring home and cultivate a bit this Indian mysterious flavor in one's own place, which the India has a bit of a dream of this oriental, of this mysterious, exotic, unknown. It's a bit like the Silk Road, and in the old days it was the spices, the pepper, the cayenne pepper, and in the old days it was special, to have cinnamon, and this was trading goods in the old days. For me, it was first encounters with saffron, this kind of orange type of special expensive spice and things like this. So okay, let's cook with that. Let's prepare a jasmine rice. Let's prepare a curry, Indian style. I remember even before in childhood and adolescent time, my mother would also make a curry sometimes, and it was she had like the standard supermarket curry, which is sometimes called actually a madras curry, a bit more of a yellow standard one, not so spicy, hot chili. And then she would put like pan fried bananas kind of the sweet and sour, like what we imagine in the West, how the Indian dish would be. We'd pick up some recipes and so on. And then we have our kind of normalized, westernized version of an Indian curry, either in a restaurant or in the home cooking. So that, in a way, some of my first exposures to the Oriental tradition. And actually, also early on, I remember reading a book called Siddhartha by one of my very favorite authors, a very influential German author called Hermann Hesse. Hermann Hesse is the German pronunciation, and he actually grew up in the same area where I grew up in southern Germany, and I was always inspired by his life journey and his life philosophy, his art of living, and he himself traveled actually to Asia in young years, and then wrote a novel with the title Siddhartha, and it's took some inspiration of Gautama Buddha's life and is telling the life story of a yogi, of an Indian sage on the spiritual quest. So that was another very influential tale, and almost like an archetype, discovering India through the lens of a Western traveler such as Hermann Hesse, who was very popular and famous also in the 1970s in the hippie counterculture, with books like Steppenwolf and Glass Bead Game and others. So that was another early kind of imagination, fantasy, and dream of India, which I got exposed to in the very early days. And then I remember studying psychology and education at the Free University in Berlin, as well as philosophy. So there I had some early exposures to the Indian philosophy, where I showed up kind of more as a guest and outsider at the philosophical department, and somehow got curious about this Indian philosophy and signed up for a seminar on Indian philosophy. And it was curious for me to explore these roots. I was kind of keen to discover what is it really about, this Indian philosophy. And it was pretty much of an advanced seminar where the professor would be very much in the details and in the trenches, in the like really profound essence of advanced Indian philosophy. And for me as a newcomer, it was somewhere between shocking, not understandable, and frustrating, because it was so abstract that I couldn't really relate. So complex, because he was trying to bring it together with the Indian history, where there's no certain kingdoms and this and no historical facts of the culture, and then the abstract, complex philosophy and drawing correlations to different terms which I had never heard about. So I was curious, but I kind of got turned off. It was overwhelming for a newcomer beginner to enter this advanced seminar. I tried again with other books, getting in the library, for example, a book by Sri Aurobindo, a thick one. I think it's called The Life Divine, or The Life We Are Given, or something like this. And for some reason, that book came to me, and it was similar to the seminar, also too overwhelming, because Aurobindo writes in a very abstract Oxford English, which is not so relatable and too metaphysical, too theoretical. I also unfortunately couldn't relate and didn't really read this thick book either. So there was some kind of like approximating, but then stepping back again, because not finding the entrance way. And then I was also studying education, and there was a conference about alternative education. IDEC, it was called, International Democratic Education Conference. So alternative free education, free learning, free spirits, curiosity of the kids, not limiting them into a box of a classroom and so on, but more the free homeschooling, unschooling, and so on learning journey. And on that convention, where I was part of and organizing and so on, when whatever 21, 22 years of age, there were some guests from Ladakh, from an alternative free school in Ladakh. And Ladakh is an area in northern India in the Himalayas, border towards Tibet and Nepal, very north of India. And they came all the way from the Himalayas, from some small town there, simple people, but very beautiful heart. And I remember one of the teachers who came there introduced me. He took me aside. I was asking him some questions after the seminar, like, can you tell me a bit more about Ladakh, where you come from? And he took the time in the afternoon to meet, and we were in a little park nearby, and he was telling me some stories about pranayama, yogic breath work. And then he introduced me to some techniques there in a spontaneous, surprising gift of a one on one class. So there I received some additional gifts and I became more and more grateful for these Indian ingredients in my life. Not only the tea and the curry dishes, the philosophy in books and seminar, I got a bit turned away. Wasn't really so grateful for that experience. Didn't really work. But this was one of the early experiences where I appreciated this gratitude for India because somehow it was responding to my calling. Somehow this teacher showed up and introduced me and gave me some tips and tricks for life, an introduction to this art of living from the Indian yogic perspective. So, over the years with such encounters, my curiosity was growing. And actually, directly after, already, I signed up for the first yoga class, which was in the context of university sport, where they do whatever basketball and volleyball and soccer. And you can do Tai Chi, and you can sign up also for a semester long yoga class in the university gym. And that was my first class, maybe when I was some 22 years old or something, 21, and was having an Iyengar yoga teacher. I still remember a blonde elderly woman, and she was teaching a very meticulous alignment style and was introducing us for like 3-month course to not much quantity but very detailed quality education on the sun salutations. And we were taking apart each and every pose of Surya Namaskar, the famous emblematic archetype practice of yoga, the sun salutations. And we were practicing every pose and down dog. She was explaining us the alignment, and then we were practicing it together using Iyengar style, the props, which Iyengar is so famous for. For example, with a belt around the waist and thighs, in upper thighs in down dog, and then somebody else pulling in down dog with the belt, the buttocks high up in the air. So giving assists, adjusts with BKS Iyengar style props. So I had a very solid introduction into alignment details of asana practice. So that was my first real exposure to own yoga asana practice at the age of something like 21, 22 or so. And I liked it, and it was early morning, like 7 o'clock, and it was very difficult to get to, like 45 minutes of subway ride. But I committed and I showed up, and it was a nice introduction. And then actually, I wanted to go traveling, wanted to go backpacking, and had the possibility to either go to India, follow that call even further, or Latin America. And there was a strong calling for India, but meeting a newfound friend there in the city of Berlin, he just came back from 6 months of backpacking in Latin America. And he strongly influenced me to not go to India, but go backpacking in Latin America. And I was kind of in his footsteps, following his recommendations and going backpacking for half a year on a shoestring there. Amazing experience, but not India yet. So India got delayed. Again, little obstacle. But a year or two later, I finally made it there. I think 1 year later, must have been something like 1999, 2000 or something like this. The first time traveling to India backpacking. And studying strong in university, going super intensely on the seminars and exams, final semester work, and so on. I was very tired of having gone super strong all these studies in the university and so on. So, okay, now time to travel, prepare this, that, and go for something like 2-3 months or so to India in the semester break, spring break, something like this. And then arriving there super tired, super depleted. So, okay, not so easy arrival. And then arriving in Mumbai at the airport. So, first time setting foot on Indian ground. With the curiosity, the openness, the excitement, and the innocent, uninformed optimism, we could call it, not knowing anything, not having a clue, basically, just having the Lonely Planet. Some of you might still know these old school guidebooks, thick travel guides, which introduce the backpackers to the best affordable, cheap places and so on. So, okay, a little bit of information about what to do, how to do, but cryptic and unclear. But it was clear, need to save money, stay on a low budget, student style backpacker. And then, okay, not taking a taxi from the airport to town, too expensive, but let's take a local train. So I was traveling at the time there with Kirsten, and we managed, after arriving there at this crazy airport, to be surprised by the different style of people and the dark skin, other culture, and the bustling hustle, kind of ant-like crowds of people, intensity, and the kind of hustlers, the taxi drivers, trying to kind of like, yes sir, come to my taxi, and everybody trying to draw us in and so on. Like, no, we go for the train. Okay, local currency, need to change some money, this, that, difficulties. And then, okay, take the local bus to the local train station. That was not so easy to find the local bus, and there already some exposure to some of the mentioned smells at the bus station, stinky, like public toilet in the kind of corner of the hall, kind of like stinky, nasty situations already at the airport bus station. And then, okay, somehow finding the right bus who takes us to the nearby local train station. And then, okay, bigger train station, whatever, 8, 10, 12 platforms, which is the right platform. And then everything written in Hindi script, so cannot read the letters. Most signs cannot decipher in other language script. So not only other language, but other script, cannot read the letters, not Roman script. So then what to do? Okay, asking here, yeah, okay, I think this must be the right train to downtown. Okay, found the right platform. Super crowded, packed. We could imagine, like Tokyo style of subway, where in the rush hour, no, packed, like cannot even move your arms out. And then train comes towards the platform, driving in slowly, and at the side of the train, outside, at the doors, there's like troves of people hanging outside of the train, kind of surfing, kind of standing with 1 or 2 feet, kind of just there, holding themselves on some handle and kind of surfing outside of the train. But not just 2, 3, but at every door, kind of like some 10, 15, 20 people around each door on the driving train, which slowly approaches the platform, which is rush hour packed. So everybody gets excited. Okay, train seems to be pretty full. There seems to be a lot of people who want to enter this train. And then, okay, got to get somehow to the door. And then, okay, how to get to the door? Okay, no, the train gets slower and slower. Where will the door stop? And then, okay, train stops. And for some reason, I got kind of lucky. I pushed a bit in the right direction. And I was just in the right spot next to the door. The train stopped. I was just next to it. And then suddenly, a whole stream of people, like dozens and dozens of people streaming out like a river out of the train, pushing out, running out. And the other people on the platform need to make some space, and they get kind of pushed to the side, to the next of the doors. And then, okay, all people out within 7 seconds, 35 people out of the train. And then the other people from the side push in to get into the train. And I directly get pushed into the train, and suddenly in the middle of it, inside. But then I turn around, and it get crowded, packed, and quickly the train starts driving again. But Kirsten was not in the train. In the crowd, she somehow didn't get in this stream, in this river, didn't get pushed in. So the train leaves, me inside the train, Kirsten out on the platform. And no chance to do anything. Cannot move, cannot get out, stop, no chance. And I mind you, this is pre-smartphone times. This is basically pre-internet email times. Yes, internet existed already, but it was like very few people had any internet access. Definitely not on a mobile phone. And maybe you could find somewhere hidden some internet cafe, we called it, where there is some office where you can have access to a desktop computer and per hour access the computer there when you're traveling. So internet was basically non-existent, and definitely no smartphones. And we also didn't have, also mobile phones didn't exist yet. Cell phones didn't exist. So what to do? And we didn't even know to which hotel we go. We were like, yeah, we go to this area, and then we search for a hotel. First time in a new city in Mumbai. And we don't even know which train station the train is exactly going to. Oh my goodness, we lost each other like within the first 1.5 hours of arriving in India. So somewhat panic, and the train just keeps on riding and doesn't stop. It just continues. Because it was actually, I learned later, a fast train, which only stops at every third or fourth station. Then it finally stops again. It's like a city, a suburb commute train. And then getting out of the train, and then, okay, what to do? Waiting for the next train to come, hoping that Kirsten would come in the next follow-up train. But she didn't. I was standing on the bench looking out for her, again, crowds, but couldn't see her coming. Then an Indian man approaches me and says like, sir, I think you lost your wife on the previous train station. Sir, this is not so good. But in India, what we do, when we lose each other, when we lose track, we just wait at the same place that we lost each other. In this way, it is very easy to find each other again. I was like, oh, that's a smart idea. Okay, meaning I have to go back. Because apparently he told her to stay there. Don't move, don't go anywhere, because then how will we find each other? So I felt, great idea, but how will I come back? And I was like, can you explain me how to get back? Like which platform, which train number, and where's it going? And will it be also a fast train? Where do I get out? I don't know. And then he's like, sir, let me escort you. I will help you, sir. Yes. No, I insist. I will go back with you to find your wife. No, we go back together. I was like, this man is taking time to drive back in the other direction. Yes, I'm on the way to work, but I can come a little bit late. It's okay. We go back. And then he helps me to drive back to the previous station. And then, indeed, we find Kirsten there on the platform. And then the three of us together drive to downtown Mumbai. And this lovely gentleman takes us to his working place. And it turns out that he's the owner of fabric, a cloth trading wholesale shop in Mumbai. And there's like piles of clothes, of fabric. And in the middle of that, he serves us breakfast and a chai tea, an Indian masala milk tea. And we had our first introduction to India, how it can be surprising and incredible, and how we naturally develop a certain attitude of gratitude. We become grateful for these surprises of life, which are somehow more raw, more strong and intense, such as this tea. So, that's an anecdotal biographical story to introduce you to the surprises that India has to offer. If we tackle it in this open-hearted way, but in some ways, India doesn't even give us a chance to do so differently. We just get thrown into the deep end, into the cold water, and then kind of learn to swim like this. There's like, no, not the soft, gentle, gradual, step-by-step, soft learning approach of, no, iterative, slowly, step-by-step, but it's kind of tends to provide the big challenges for big learning very quickly, very confrontative. And we cannot really escape it. No, it's don't really have a choice. It's like the weather, like seasons coming. You're just like, when you're there, you're in the pressure cooker, and life kind of throw some curveballs, some challenging twists, some turn of events where you think like this, but it turns out very differently. So it teaches us how to accept situations as they are, and in a way, how to surrender to life as it is. And that was actually, just comes to my mind, exactly a learning presented on that very same train where we were driving in with a businessman who rescued us, driving into the final Mumbai Central train station. Arriving there and seeing at the side wall in this train station a big hand-drawn graffiti sprayed at the wall, and it said, "Life is 10% how you make it, and 90% how you take it." 10% how you make it. So our choice, our action, our influence, our freedom, our decisions are surprisingly limited. Of course, we make the best out of it, yeah, but it's only 10% how we make it. Most of it is not what we make out of it actively, but is how we take it, how we receive it, how we are able to accept it with serenity. Do we have the serenity to accept things that we cannot change? As the Serenity Prayer by Niebuhr, give me the courage or strength to change the things I can change, and give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And in this graffiti statement on the Indian train station, the message was, yeah, don't get too excited about how you make it. That's just 10%. The courage of how I figure it out and I find the solutions. Yeah, sure, but only 10%. 90%, the serenity, how you accept it. And that's a somewhat extreme presentation of the case, but it shows a bit the Indian attitude, which is very good with accepting things as they are. And just in this way, going with the flow, trusting in the process. And that was then next experience, getting out of the train, walking through the train station. Was early morning. This was also why the train was so full, because of the commute and rush hour and so on. And on the train station, in the main hall, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people sleeping there on the floor, on some plain blanket, camping there temporarily. Passengers waiting for some train overnight, or I didn't know, whatever they are doing there, but they were kind of just waking up. And as the formulation in India goes, rolling up their bed, rolling up their blanket or their bit of a thicker double layered blanket, and going about their day, continuing. So pretty surprising to see like a public sleeping hall, camping ground in the main downtown train station with hundreds of people. And on that same note, after so many other anecdotes on the way, a few quick anecdotes from the way there. So after the breakfast at the fabric shop guy, going to the hotel area, coastal promenade pier area near the harbor, and there's the gateway to India, or Gate of India, or something like this, a big arch, monumental, massive construction there for probably the British emperor's building there, this gateway to India where the ships would arrive at the harbor and so on, a big monument like this. And we kind of walked by there to find the backpacker hotel area, and there already some drug dealers trying to sell us the hashish, the cannabis, which in India is very common and widespread. Um, but then it's kind of like a dodgy dealer market where they kind of try to rip off the innocent tourists. So I think we were even smoking at that time. I think we met some other person and we were into ganja smoking at that period. And with that other friend, exactly, I think we didn't want to smoke or something, but the other friend urgently wanted to buy something. I think it was like this. And then he bought something that was very low quality and we were a bit worried and so on. We were just arriving with our backpacks, hippies, not students, 21 years old or something, 22, whatever. And then after that arrival at the coast there, first time there, many surprising scenes and all the Indian setup there. Then after some search and find, we decide for a hotel. And then I remember how also there, following up on the story where they're sleeping on the street, not on that first morning, but on the second morning, waking up in that hotel, seeing on the street how people are also there sleeping on the street and rolling up their bed, but a very different flavor than our Western type of homeless, poor, desperate people, but in a way very normalized, kind of a very natural. It's kind of their way of living and they're very content with it. And it's like nobody looks down on them. They also surprisingly don't look really run down. So after they roll up their bed, they have some places kind of inexplicable where they wash themselves, some water tap somewhere, and they refresh themselves. And then for some reason their clothes are nice, neat, clean, not for all, but for many of them, surprisingly. And then the Indians tend to be very neat. It's filthy dirty everywhere, but then they always have a comb in their pocket, the man, and then they're freshly combed and like manicure style, kind of like they're very clean and neat, and well kept, we would say. And it was kind of like normal and like a social life around it, and the neighbors, like in the neighborhood, and people chatting and being very natural. It didn't have this kind of outcast type of negative, pejorative, run down impression. It was just normal. These people they sleep here. One person sleeping in the house entrance there, the other one camping a bit over there. But then it was also cleaned up. They clean up roll up their bed, they clean up their camp, and the day begins. And then ongoing surprising scenes. I still remember to the day, it's like, whatever, 26 years ago or something. I still remember the incredible experience. Remember, incredible India, unbelievable. How a guy comes driving with his too big for his small statue body, comes with one of these old school English bicycles. So that's normal in India. They have these kind of 1930s, 1940s, old school, heavy kind of iron type of bicycles, which didn't change in the last 60 years, kind of. So they kind of continue what they learned from the British emperors. They continue this same approach and they just stay on that. So they have these ancient old school bicycles, which is already a scene in itself to see these small men on these big bicycles, old school. And then the guy was a delivery man for eggs. And these square cartons where there's whatever, 10 times 10 eggs on one carton thing, and he had those cartons full of eggs, but he had stacked, like, I'm not exaggerating, something like a stack like this, like must have been something like 10, 12, 14 of those egg carton layers stacked on top of each other. And he had them on the back of his bicycle, the bicycle seat thing behind the little storage place, and on top of it some board, and then he had a like long black rubber strap which he kind of pulled over and across the whole stack and fixed it next to the wheel there. And that was his delivery vehicle for eggs. And it was just very normal, and he was handling it very skillfully, extremely gracefully, as of course for him it would be the most normal thing in the world. Of course, it's his work, it's his job. And he would kind of park his bicycle and unstrap the thing and take the whole stack down on the floor, like whatever, I don't know, like 900 or 1400x. He's kind of casually taking down from his bicycle, taking one of the layers, bringing them to the neighbor shop there, and then going about his way and putting them back on the bicycle, continuing his delivery journey. So, just one anecdote of the first arrival in India to give you a bit of a flavor of these surprises. That wherever you look, there is like an incredible wow. It's like I told you in the beginning of our sharing exploration here, it's like I would have not even considered that to be an option. I would have never even thought about it. It's just unbelievable. It's just incredible. And in some situations, more like the fascinating awe, like just awe inspiring how he's handling those eggs. It's just like, wow, like what an artist, what a craft this delivery man is cultivating. So sometimes awe inspiring, other times beautiful, and other times shocking. Like, how is it possible that people live in such circumstances? And how do they handle? And no, disabled people with missing limbs living there also on the streets, but being very normal and part of the society and not locked away in any special hospital home for the disadvantaged or special needs. Or no, they're just like part of the street life, shockingly, but surprisingly normalized. And they just accept the situation with a lot of unbelievable serenity and have this beauty, this, in a way, almost an honorable cadence to them. This kind of, like well kept, well maintained. And yes, also making the best out of their life situation and their life circumstances. But not so much what they make of it, 10% how you make it, but 90% how you take it. And one of the fascinating gifts of India is that it teaches us how to accept things as they are. Because people in India are masters in this acceptance, which is more than just detachment, but it is an existential form of detachment known as surrender. So, this openness of the heart, which doesn't only believe, but it trusts. But it doesn't only trust, it has this heartfelt embrace of whatever life has to offer. I can not only deal with it and make the best out of it, but I can really embrace it and celebrate it. Which is not to say that it cannot be challenging for people. And it's not to say that it's easy for them. And I'm not saying that it's fair and that it's an appropriate justice in that inequality. Yet it teaches us many lessons, which we are usually not exposed to in our mainstream Western life circumstances. And these lessons are very valuable, but to be honest, I would say they are priceless. They have such a profound, deep meaning, significance, and impact. They just touch us so deeply and allow us to have not only heart opening experiences, but in this mind blowing intensity, they tend to be life changing in their influence, in their impact, in their radical confrontation. We go beyond the ordinary and are suddenly and unescapably, unavoidably confronted with a different way of living. And these life lessons we can learn anywhere, in any surroundings and circumstances. But in some ways, India is a fast track, an accelerator for this learning. And for this, I'm eternally grateful. For this priceless gift, there are no words of gratitude, because it's beyond words. This incredible, astonishing experience that India delivers, inevitably, is such a profound gift, which leaves me with a deep sense of gratitude and profound appreciation for this motherland of yoga. And I'm very much looking forward in future episodes to go deeper into this exploration. And I'm, of course, ready to share with you other more yoga related anecdotes in ashrams, yoga schools, meditation monasteries, retreat centers, and sitting there with spiritual masters, gurus, both of the big caliber up on the stage, but also with these common life teachings which the mundane spiritual teachers of your taxi driver are delivering, which in India is usually not a taxi driver, but the famous rickshaw driver. Rickshaw is this three-wheeler mini car, which is rather like a three-wheeler scooter bike with a little seat, sometimes a cover on top. And these rickshaw drivers are legendary for being hidden secret spiritual teachers. So India on every corner has a lesson to learn and an inspiration to be received. So I encourage you also to leave your questions about India here in the comments below, and I will definitely read them myself and will reply to them in future episodes when we talk more about incredible India, these unbelievable experiences of the motherland of yoga. So leave your questions in the comments. And please subscribe to this podcast, to our YouTube channel or wherever you're listening. And also you can sign up for our calendar. We have this monthly calendar where we share the links to all our podcast episodes, asana classes, meditation sessions, and a lot of other freebies and valuable content, which we just share with you and pass on the gifts which we received with gratitude in India. We hand over this abundance to you. So please find the link to the calendar sign up subscription in the description below. And I'm looking forward to the next adventures of our exploration of the Asian roots of spirituality in a personal and anecdotal new format, connecting from heart to heart. Thank you so much for joining the Spirit of Yoga. I truly appreciate this wisdom in motion as it is unfolding in these shared explorations. Loving wishes from Bali, blessings, and namaste. Thank you so much.